Have you ever looked at someone and thought, why them? Why did God bless them with so much and not me? We've all been there, comparing, wondering, questioning God's timing. But here's the truth. God doesn't randomly decide who gets rich. He doesn't spin a wheel in heaven and say, let's make this one a millionaire. No, God tests before he trusts. Before he gives you abundance, he gives you responsibility. He watches how you handle little things, your time, your energy, your words, your attitude. Because if you can't handle small blessings, how can you manage bigger ones? Think about it. If you give a child $100, they might waste it in a day. But give it to someone who's learned discipline, patience, and gratitude. They'll multiply it. God works the same way. Sometimes you're not broke. You're just being trained. You're being shaped, refined, prepared. He's not punishing you. He's positioning you. You're in a classroom, not a prison. The people you call lucky aren't lucky. They're ready. They pass invisible tests. Staying kind when no one thanked them, working hard when no one noticed, giving when they barely had enough. God doesn't bless according to wants. He blesses according to readiness. He waits until your heart can handle the weight of wealth. Because money doesn't change you, it reveals you. If you're greedy when you have little, you'll be dangerous when you have more. If you're generous when you have little, you'll be unstoppable when you have more. Here are some key points related to this. God doesn't reward desire. He rewards readiness and responsibility, not final destinations. Your waiting season is training, not punishment. Wealth exposes your character. It doesn't create it. Be faithful and grateful with little. It prepares you for much. When your heart aligns with divine purpose, abundance follows naturally. God doesn't reward desire. He rewards readiness and responsibility. That truth alone separates dreamers from doers, wishers from receivers. Everyone says, I want to be rich, but very few ever ask, am I ready to handle what being rich actually means? You see, desire is cheap. Everyone has it. But responsibility, that's rare. That's where God looks. It's not about how loudly you pray for blessings. It's about how quietly you prepare for them when no one is watching. Imagine two people planting seeds. One plants and walks away, expecting rain to do all the work. The other plants, waters, protects, and waits. When a storm comes, one field drowns and the other flourishes. Both want a harvest. Only one was ready for it. God's way isn't unfair, it's intentional. Before he pours abundance into your hands, he checks the strength of your grip. If you can't manage a small amount of money wisely, what would you do with more? If you can't stay consistent in small work, what would you do with a company? He tests through details. How you talk about others, how you treat your time, how you respond when life feels slow. Because wealth doesn't start in the wallet, it starts in the mind. Readiness is a mindset, a discipline, a silent agreement that says, I'll take care of what you've already given me. There's a story of a young man who begged God for success. He prayed every night, Lord, make me rich. Years went by and nothing changed. Frustrated, he asked, why are you ignoring me? And in a whisper, God replied, you're asking for rain, but you haven't prepared the ground. That moment hit him like lightning. He realized his habits were weak, his focus was scattered, his faith was conditional. He wanted blessings without building the character to hold them. So he changed. He started managing what little he had, saving, learning, staying disciplined. Slowly, doors opened, not because God suddenly decided to bless him, but because he became someone ready to be blessed. Desire is emotional. Readiness is spiritual. Desire says, I want it now. Readiness says, I'll become the person who deserves it. God sees who you are becoming behind closed doors. When no one's clapping, when no one's noticing, when it feels pointless, that's when heaven is taking notes. Remember the parable of the talents? The master gave one servant 5 coins, another 2, and another 1. The ones who multiplied what they were given were rewarded with more. The one who hid his lost everything. Why? Because fear and laziness are signs of unreadiness. God doesn't bless potential. He blesses stewardship. It's easy to say, if I had more money, I'd be generous. But generosity doesn't begin with millions. It begins with sharing the little you already have. It's easy to say, if I had more time, I'd chase my dream. But if you waste the hours you already own, more won't help. Life's blessings expand in proportion to your maturity. God is not withholding wealth from you. He's waiting for you to become the person who won't be destroyed by it. Because divine wealth isn't about what you get. It's about who you become while getting there. Small blessings are never small. They're divine tests wrapped in ordinary moments. God often hides his biggest opportunities in things that look too simple to notice. The problem is, we're so focused on the miracle we want that we overlook the miracle we already have. Every day, God places tiny chances in front of us, a task that feels beneath us, a person who needs our patience, a challenge that tests our consistency, and watches how we respond. Because the way we treat the small things reveals how we'll handle the big ones. If you're careless with the little, abundance will crush you. But if you're faithful with the little, it will prepare you. Think about a farmer holding a single seed. To most people, it's nothing, small, forgettable, maybe even useless. But the farmer knows it's not the size that matters. It's what's inside. He plants it, waters it, protects it from the cold, and waits. He doesn't curse the seed for being small. He knows greatness always starts hidden. God does the same with us. He gives us seeds, a small job, a small income, a small platform, and waits to see if we treat them with care. Those who plant, nurture, and grow what they've been given prove they're ready for a field. There's a story of a woman who worked as a cleaner in a small office. Every night, she would sweep floors no one cared about, clean desks no one thanked her for, and polish the windows like they were her own. One evening, the owner of the company walked in unexpectedly and watched her quietly. He saw how she worked with pride, with gratitude, with excellence. Even though no one was watching, a year later, she was promoted to supervisor. 2 years later, she managed an entire branch. She once said, "I didn't clean floors for money. I cleaned them for my future." That's what small blessings are. Preparation disguised as repetition. God observes how you handle less before he gives you more. When you wake up with a job you don't love but still give your best, he takes note. When you have only a little money but still share it with someone in need, he takes note. When you stay grateful in a season of waiting instead of bitterness, he takes note. It's in those quiet, unseen moments that heaven decides how much you can carry next. Many people think their big breakthrough will come with fireworks, but it rarely does. It comes quietly, through a decision to stay excellent when no one's watching. He who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. That's not just scripture. It's a spiritual law. Every great destiny begins in the shadows, where you learn patience, humility, and gratitude. The person who treats small beginnings with honor grows into someone God can trust with abundance. Because when you prove that you can handle the little without losing your joy, you're already being prepared for more than you can imagine. Your waiting season is not a punishment. It's training disguised as delay. Most people misunderstand this part of the journey. They think when life slows down or when doors refuse to open, God has turned his back. But silence is not rejection, it's refinement. Waiting seasons are where strength is built, faith is stretched, and character is formed. You don't grow in abundance. You grow in absence. You don't discover faith when everything's working. You discover it when nothing seems to be. That's when heaven is watching the closest. When your prayers feel unanswered, and you choose to believe anyway. Imagine a goldsmith refining gold. He doesn't polish it instantly. He puts it through fire. The flames aren't there to destroy the gold, but to reveal it. Every impurity melts away until only what's pure remains. That's what God does during your waiting season. The fire you feel, the pressure, the confusion, the waiting, is not meant to break you. It's meant to make you pure enough to handle the next blessing. If he gave you what you asked for too early, it might destroy you. So he holds it back, not to punish you, but to strengthen your hands to hold it when it finally comes. Think about a young athlete training before the big game. The hours of sweat, pain, and repetition are never glamorous. No one claps for practice. But those lonely hours in the gym, those mornings when no one is watching, that's where champions are made. The same is true with destiny. God uses silence to sharpen your spirit. Every delay has a reason. Every waiting room has a lesson. You're being prepared for what you prayed for. There's a story of a man who dreamed of starting his own business. He had ideas, passion, and drive, but every attempt failed. For years, nothing seemed to move. At one point, he cried out, "God, why won't you let me succeed?" And in his heart, he heard a quiet reply, "Because you're not ready to lead yet. You still react like a follower." Those words cut deep. He realized that God wasn't saying no. He was saying grow. So he began to work on himself, his patience, his discipline, his faith. Years later, the same business that once failed became his breakthrough. The delay wasn't denial, it was development. When you're waiting, it's easy to compare yourself to others who seem ahead. But remember, a tree that grows fast often has shallow roots. God's delay isn't to slow you down. It's to help your roots go deep enough to survive any storm. The waiting season teaches humility, resilience, and trust, the kind of lessons that wealth can't buy. So when God hides you, don't curse the silence. He's not ignoring you. He's investing in you. You're being trained to handle a life you haven't even seen yet. And when the season finally changes, you'll realize the waiting wasn't wasted. It was the very thing that made you ready. Wealth doesn't create character. It reveals it. When money enters a person's life, it doesn't change who they are. It amplifies what was already hidden. A kind person becomes more generous. A greedy person becomes more selfish. A disciplined person becomes wiser. And a careless person becomes reckless. That's why God often withholds abundance until he knows your character can carry it. He's not protecting the wealth from you. He's protecting you from the wealth. Because money in the wrong hands can destroy purpose faster than poverty ever could. It's not the gold that's dangerous. It's the ego that comes with it. Imagine a poor man who suddenly wins a fortune overnight. The world cheers, but inside, he's the same man who never learned discipline, humility, or gratitude. So what happens? Within months, the wealth disappears. The statistics prove it. Most lottery winners lose everything within 5 years. Not because money is evil, but because they weren't emotionally or spiritually prepared for what came with it. They received the blessing before developing the foundation to hold it. God doesn't want that for you. That's why he refines you through struggle first. So when abundance comes, you handle it with grace, not arrogance. There's a story about a man who worked his way up from nothing. He started as a janitor, cleaning offices late at night, dreaming of owning a company one day. But as he climbed, he made a promise to himself. If I ever become wealthy, I'll never forget how this floor feels. Years later, he owned a business that employed hundreds. But every week, he'd walk the floors, greeting every cleaner by name, handing out small gifts on holidays, always remembering his roots. People respected him not because he was rich, but because wealth didn't erase his humanity. That's what true abundance looks like. Humility that grows with success. God tests us long before he trusts us. He watches how we handle authority, how we treat people who can't help us, how we react when no one's watching. Because money and power magnify those moments. To whom much is given, much is required. It's not just a warning. It's a reminder that blessings come with responsibility. Wealth is not just for comfort. It's for contribution. When you're given more, it's because you're meant to do more. Think of wealth like a mirror. It shows you. That's why some people lose themselves when they rise. They blame money, fame, or success, but in truth, those things only peel away the mask they wore in scarcity. God wants you to build a heart strong enough to stay kind when praised, grounded when admired, and generous when blessed. Because at the end of the day, wealth is not the true reward. Wisdom is. The goal isn't to be rich and empty, but to be blessed and whole. And only a strong, humble character can carry that kind of richness without breaking under its weight. Being faithful and grateful with little is a quiet secret to unlocking much. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it's one of the most powerful spiritual principles that governs abundance. Everyone wants more money, more opportunities, more recognition. But few realize that more begins with mastering what's already in their hands. God watches how you treat the season you're in before he promotes you to the one you dream about. Gratitude and faithfulness are not feelings. They're decisions you make when life gives you less than you hoped for. Imagine a young artist painting in a small, dimly lit room. Her brushes are worn, her canvas is old, her audience non-existent. But every night, she paints like the world is watching. She doesn't wait for fame to do her best. She brings excellence to every stroke. Years later, her work gets discovered, and people call her an overnight success. What they never saw were the thousands of nights she was faithful to her gift when no one cared. God saw it, though. Heaven always notices effort done in silence. Faithfulness in small places prepares you for visibility in big ones. There's a verse that says, "He who is faithful in little will be faithful in much." It's not poetic advice. It's divine structure. When you show gratitude for what you have, you signal to the universe that you can be trusted with more. Gratitude multiplies blessings, while complaining repels them. Think about it. When you give someone a gift and they receive it with joy, it makes you want to give them more. But if they act ungrateful or dismissive, you hold back. God works the same way. He's not moved by constant requests. He's moved by consistent gratitude. There was a man who once prayed every day for a promotion. He hated his job, hated the small salary, hated how unnoticed he felt. One day, his pastor told him, "You're asking God to promote you, but you treat your current role like it's a curse. Why would he trust you with more responsibility when you despise the little you have?" Those words changed him. The next day, he started showing up early, helping co-workers, doing his job with excellence. Months later, his manager noticed and promoted him. He realized that the promotion wasn't waiting on God. It was waiting on his attitude. Faithfulness and gratitude transform ordinary moments into divine opportunities. When you thank God for the little, you're not just showing appreciation. You're proving your readiness. You're saying, "I can handle small with joy, so I can handle big with grace." Wealth isn't handed to the loudest dreamer. It's entrusted to the most faithful steward. The person who appreciates a small blessing creates the energy to attract a greater one. God doesn't bless complaints. He blesses commitment. So whatever's in your hands today, treat it like treasure. Because when you can celebrate the small, heaven prepares the stage for your more. When your heart aligns with divine purpose, abundance stops running from you and starts running toward you. Most people chase money, chase status, chase success, but they forget that true wealth flows naturally to those who are in harmony with what they were created to do. God never designed prosperity to be pursued. He designed it to be attracted by purpose. The moment your inner world matches the assignment He placed on your life, everything begins to shift. Doors open without forcing. Opportunities appear without begging. It's not luck, it's alignment. Picture a river flowing through a valley. You don't chase the water. You simply build your boat in its path. The river represents divine flow, the current of purpose that carries provision, peace, and direction. But most people spend their lives fighting the current, chasing goals that don't fit their soul. They run after careers that bring income but no meaning, relationships that fill time but not spirit. And then they wonder why life feels heavy, why nothing lasts, why they're tired even when they win. It's because abundance can't thrive in misalignment. God doesn't bless who you pretend to be. He blesses who you truly are. There was once a man who spent years climbing the corporate ladder. He had money, cars, respect, everything he thought he wanted, but every night he'd lie awake, feeling a strange emptiness he couldn't explain. One day, after yet another stressful meeting, he stepped outside and saw a group of kids playing soccer in the street. Something in him sparked. He remembered how he used to play as a child, how he loved mentoring younger players. That night he prayed, "God, show me what I've been missing." Slowly, his heart began to stir with purpose. Within months, he quit his high-paying job and started a community sports program for underprivileged children. Everyone thought he was crazy, until they saw his joy. The same man who once chased wealth now radiated peace. And the irony? His program began to attract sponsors, funding, and global recognition. The moment he stepped into purpose, abundance followed him. That's how divine alignment works. When your motives, values, and actions echo the rhythm of your soul, you become magnetic. You no longer need to push or force. You simply walk in flow. It's like tuning an instrument. When you're out of tune, every note sounds wrong, no matter how hard you play. But once tuned, even soft melodies sound divine. God tunes our hearts the same way, through seasons of waiting, breaking, and rebuilding, until we vibrate at the same frequency as His purpose for us. Abundance isn't always about more money. It's about more meaning. It's the peace that comes from knowing you're walking the path heaven designed for you. When your heart and God's will move in the same direction, blessings don't need to be chased. They start finding you, because divine wealth isn't a reward for ambition. It's the natural outcome of alignment, so now you know. God doesn't choose who gets rich by chance. He watches, He tests, He waits. He looks not at your wallet, but at your willingness. Not at your dreams, but at your discipline. Not at your prayers, but at your preparation. Every moment you're living right now is part of the divine decision-making process. Every test you pass, every act of gratitude, every time you choose faith over fear, heaven takes note. Stop waiting for a miracle and start becoming the miracle. Stop asking when will it happen and start declaring, I'm getting ready. Because the moment you align your heart with His purpose, the floodgates open. The wealth, the peace, the joy, the opportunities, they all start flowing toward you. God is not withholding from you. He's waiting for you. Be faithful with little. Be grateful in delay. Be humble in success. Because how you handle today is how God decides your tomorrow. The time is now, not someday, not when you feel ready, not when everything's perfect. Now is when faith counts most. Now is when your training becomes testimony. So when you walk out of here, remember this. God doesn't bless the loudest prayers. He blesses the quietest preparation. He doesn't give wealth to the most ambitious. He gives it to the most aligned. And when your heart finally matches His plan, you won't have to chase abundance. You'll attract it by who you become. Because in the end, it was never about who wanted to be rich. Your support means everything. If this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember this, it was always about who was ready to be trusted. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.